Tagore here, and you're listening to In Progress, an imperfect journey navigated. And this podcast is presented by Girl Boss Radio in partnership with Tumi. So, over the course of 10 episodes, we will be going on a journey together. We'll be deep diving with the best and the brightest female founders, entrepreneurs, and creatives out there, and offering you the motivation you need to transition from where you are to where you want to be. These brilliant women, and I mean brilliant, will be dishing out real-world advice for self-development on the go, so you can dare to change direction, and so you can live a more fulfilling and productive life. You know, the life you deserve. Let's go. Today, we are talking about what nobody tells you about changing careers. So if you've recently quit your job, if you're thinking about quitting your job, if you're thinking about just changing paths, today we're going to be talking about what it's like to begin a new adventure. And oftentimes people admire that, but it isn't always realistic for people's experiences. So here's what you personally need to know about jumping ship and starting again. And today we're talking to Cassandra Gray, who is the founder of Violet Gray. She once had a marketing consulting business and wrote the business plan for Violet Gray while she was still in her old role, and then took numerous steps before jumping to Violet Gray full-time, which is where she's at now as the Chief Creative Officer and, of course, founder. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, thank you.
So, when it comes to changing careers, what is the first question people should be asking themselves?
I think as much as you can figure out what the commitment is and really understanding how that's going to affect your life, I think asking yourself, am I ready to change my lifestyle? I mean, I think if this is about sort of entrepreneurship and you're thinking about starting a company and maybe you're working for a company now or you want to change your, whatever it is, but starting a company, I mean, it is a lifestyle and it's nonstop. And I think it's really challenging to have a good quality of life if your family isn't supportive, if you're married or have kids, or if you're not ready to be working nights and weekends. And it's not like you're working nights and weekends because you have to. I think that's kind of a myth that to start a company you have to work, 24 hours a day. I mean, it's not a myth that you are usually meant to build something without enough time, without enough people, without enough money, which is hard, and you usually have to work overtime. But I think what happens with people starting things is they work nights and weekends and don't have a lot of time for balance or other things in life because they have to, because it's so much fun. You're so obsessed, you can't stop thinking about building, and there's just never, there's never a quiet moment, I've found anyway. So I think, you have to really be ready to sort of dive in. And I think, you got to be ready to commit 5 years.
What are some of the misconceptions to changing career paths?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's changed so much, I think, just in the last, 10 years. And, most of the young people that I, come across or hang around, they're changing their jobs every 2 years. And then I have a great friend and mentor who is, she's called Carol Barra-Sager, and she's she's won an Oscar for songwriting. She's a songwriter. And she's, she's of the age that you don't talk about her age, but let's just say she's a mature later in her life. And, she just decided she wanted to be a painter. She'd never been a painter, and she just started painting. And now she has this career as a painter. She has a show coming up with 11
Wow.
So, I've seen both young people and older people that have done what they love, they're in their dream job or, doing what they are passionate about for, 15 years or 20 years or 30 years, and then move into something else, which I think is really courageous and really exciting. But I think right now it's more and more common that, somebody wants to set you up with an actor / model / entrepreneur / whatever. I mean, it's really sort of normal to have multiple careers at the same time even.
Was there ever a point in your life where you were juggling multiple careers?
Yeah. I mean, I think right now I'm juggling multiple career. I mean, I'm using different parts of my brain.
How so?
I do a lot of business, which is very different than creative, and I do a lot of creative, which is so I've kind of gotten to a place where I have to be really structured to be productive, because I'm not a structured person organically. So I have like a schedule that really works for me. And so I have like days that is very specifically dedicated to being creative, because I know that I need to be in that space and I can't like shift from one thing to the next. So I think juggling multiple careers is about, time management, but you can do it. It's just you have to sort of organize your life.
What are some mental and emotional preparations someone can make ahead of changing careers or lifestyle?
Well, I'm an alcoholic. I'm an Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's a 12-step program, and it's like a 12-step program for life, and it's really just really simple. But I mean, it kind of applies to anything, and it's just about like being honest and rigorously honest, and always like keeping your house clean and figuring out where your fears and resentments are and getting them out and writing about them, and like just getting clean, I think, and being like a channel where you're all those things are not holding you back, because they're usually connected to pride and anger and fear. So if you could sort of self-actualize and whatever, read books about, there's so much stuff out there, and also meditating. I mean, meditating is like a simple thing that I think a lot of people think that they're not doing right or they don't know how to do, and really there's like no wrong way to do it. And it's one thing that if you do it consistently every day for even 5 minutes, you'll feel much more grounded before you start something that's gonna make you feel not grounded.
How do you meditate?
I have a meditation that I do that's it's on the internet. It's golden light meditation. It's 20 minutes. It's like all about letting light into your body and filling your body, and I love it. Like, I feel amazing after I meditate.
Do you do it once or twice a day?
It depends on how rough my day is. If I think about exercise or relaxation or meditation or sleep as tools that are going to make me better at my job, it works better for me.
That's so
like,
yeah. That
and I think
makes so much sense.
I'm also Jewish, alcoholic Jewish. So we have Shabbat, which is like brilliant. Everyone should have Shabbat, but it's literally a day that you need to take off to recharge. And I think there's misconceptions about when you're starting something and I think it's like people get so burnt out. I mean, Arianna Huffington built a whole empire around it. I mean, this is what happens. And I think the mentality, particularly when it's competitive with young people, is like, I'm going to be there first, and I'm going to leave last. I'm going to work, all day, every day, and I'm not going to do anything for myself. I'm just going to like go after it. And then, you get burnt out. And so I think if you think about, I think great things happen like in intervals of 4 hours. So it's like if you can like work and be in it and be focused for 4 hours, and then like take the rest of the day off to exercise, I think that's completely fine.
In Progress is brought to you in partnership with our friends at Tumi, who just so happen to have launched a gorgeous new line of handbags. That's right, Tumi isn't just for all your sophisticated jet-setter dreams anymore. I mean, it's definitely still for that, But this new line brings that same elegant, timeless aesthetic to your everyday, meaning you will look effortlessly chic while you're running around town and making things happen. Whether you're in the market for a luxurious leather or you're in search of a super adaptable nylon number, there's something for wherever you are in your journey right now. Check out the new line at www.tumi.com. What role do you think vulnerability plays in starting over?
And whenever I feel vulnerable, I know I'm doing the right thing. Like it's really where I think everything happens. I think it's where you learn, and particularly if you can feel it and feel that humility. And when you feel vulnerable and you walk into whatever it is you're feeling vulnerable about, you're just really growing and learning. So I think it's really important to embrace your vulnerability and recognize it as, oh, this is out of my comfort zone. Oh, I might not be able to do this. And if you do it, it's just going to feel so much better.
Can you tell us about a time where you felt really vulnerable while building Violet Grey?
I mean, that would be every time, every day. Like, I always feel vulnerable. But yeah, I mean, we've been through everything. Like, we've been on the verge of bankruptcy. We've lost complete control of our company culture, and it was just not a great place to work. We've had every problem that I think, cliches are cliches for a reason. We've had those problems. And, I feel like I have war wounds as a result, and I should get a medal. I often feel like if I don't bring it, I'm not, suiting up for the World Series or whatever, I feel like the whole thing's going to fall apart.
In those moments where you've had those really tough times through your company's journey, do you remember ever thinking, oh man, I wish somebody would have told me that about this task or building this or this part of the journey?
Yeah, my story is a little different because I did get a lot of advice and I read a lot. I guess I would think more I wish I would have taken the advice.
What pieces of advice do you wish you would have taken?
I mean, I think specific to building business, it's all about people. It's just it's all about people. So if you lose sight of that, you're just gonna get in all kinds of trouble. So I think, I think a lot of people, and I even sort of said that when I was starting the company, this is all about people, and the dream is to, attract great people that I get to work with. And, it's I even knew it, but lost track of it.
What can you do to give yourself a leg up when you're looking to establish yourself in a field that is different from what you've been doing?
Yeah, I think it's really challenging to start anything if you don't have the credibility. So I think you got to do some work within the industry. Before starting Violet Grey, I started a little styling studio, and I worked with makeup artists, hairstylists, wardrobe stylists, and sort of movie stars and people that work in the industry in Hollywood to help kind of craft image and kind of figure out what story they were going to tell with their image. And this was something I maybe knew something about in terms of just branding, and I created this little room that was probably the size of this room, 1,000 square feet office, and I just filled it with books and the kind of furniture that make people think you have good taste, and then I just started meeting with these people and working with them, and it was this training ground to develop relationships, because I need a lot of relationships to do what I do, and most companies or business are relying on relationships, but also it gave me the credibility. So I think that's my story. But I think another kind of trick that a lot of PR people do or advise you to do is to write a book, make a book, write a short story, write an essay about whatever it is that you're doing, and it's almost
for yourself.
Whatever it is that you want to do. Mm-hmm. Say you want to build a hotel.
Okay.
You could make a coffee table of all the best hotels, pictures of all the best hotels. And then it's
kind of like a mood board, but a mood book.
Yeah, I mean, if you if you make a book and you say, you work on a book, like if you actually like fill those pages with the 10 best hotels in the world, you will, by virtue of doing that, become or be known as an authority on hotels.
That is a brilliant idea. That's a great piece of advice. I've never thought about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of simple in that, I mean, obviously writing a book could take a really long time depending on what it is. But, I think if you go through that process and it doesn't have to get published, it's just like you're writing a book. And you will actually have to go through the process of figuring out what the 10 best hotels are. So actually you are an authority on what the best.
And then you end up doing the right research and building and asking the right questions.
Yeah.
And you have this.
And then you put those 10 hotels, pictures of those hotels on your wall. And it's like you just want to be, one of those guys.
And that becomes your vision board.
Yeah. So easy.
It's
not easy.
It's not.
It's really fucking hard. But there's lots
easy
of little
concept
tricks.
though.
Yeah.
Like
it's a good trick.
It's doable if you.
Simple doesn't mean easy. It's
that is
a lot of really smart PR people thought about that. Like if you see like a lot of like, influencers or like style, like Rachel Zoe, stylist. She's probably the most famous stylist. I think she, obviously she used linear television and, lots of different tools as a platform to create authority in her space. But one of the first things she did was write a book. It's like called The Stylist or something. And it's like, well, I mean, stylist was like a new career. By her having a book, she became the stylist.
She talked it and wrote it into existence.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What are some of the most important financial preparations a person should make before changing careers?
Of course, it depends on what career. I mean, I started a company that is like costs a lot of money and doesn't make a lot of money for a long time. So I needed a lot of money to be able to start the company. If you're starting a company that could be profitable from day one, like an agency or something, then that's a little different. But I think in most cases, it's like if you could save up money to live for like 2 years or maybe even just a year and, maybe change your lifestyle and like embrace, dorm life or whatever. And then you start your company and, hopefully it makes money or it's funded somehow and you don't have to live like that for very long. But at least you are not going to, run out of money because, and then I think, there's so many angel investors. And if you have a good idea and you need, $100,000 or $2 million, you can get it if you write a business model. And so write a business plan. And if you don't have any money and you don't have any support of your family and you got to pay your rent and you can't save money, the other way to go is write a business plan and get an investor.
What advice do you have for people who are trying to get investors?
Having experience trying to raise money for several years, I think the first thing is being able to articulate what it is you want to do on paper, and then being able to express that in a room in front of people. Often it's like white guys in suits, and express what you want to do. It's not so much that way anymore. There's so many great female female VCs. And then, what I think like really sort of like moved the dial for me was when I closed my first seed round. It was only after hiring my first real employee, who is one of my co-founders. And she was just on it. Like she was really, really organized, and she helped me get organized. And I don't think I would have been able to do it without her. She's like a kid from Brooklyn who's like, got herself into Harvard Law School, and like she's just a badass, and like, So she really helped me a lot, and then what she advised and helped me do was make a list of all the investors that I wanted to invest in the company, and that's pretty easy to do. If you look at the companies that you like, you can find out who invested in those companies, and then make a list, and then call them up and say and. I think also a trick that I learned is like after a while, I started to change the dynamic of the meetings and interview the investor as if I have 900 people that want to invest in me. when nobody wanted to invest in us. But like in the room, that confidence, and I used to play poker, which is a big part of what that is. But it's like when you change the dynamic and you're interviewing them, like, is their money good enough for you? It's like you're closing, deals.
Do you remember some of the questions that you asked the investors when you were interviewing them?
Yes, there's 5 great questions that you could ask. I mean, the first thing is like, you should know about as much about them as possible when you go in, so they feel like you've studied them, and then ask them like, why do they do what they do is really good. Like, why do they do what they do? Why are we in this meeting? Why are you interested in what I'm doing? And then talk to them about how they got into what they're doing. Like, why did they become a CE? Why did they become a VC? Like, what is that about? And are they really passionate about what they do? Because you only want to work with people that are really passionate about your company and what they do. And that's the key to success, is that everybody around you is like way smarter than you and really passionate about what they do. So that will help close the deal too. And then I think like, knowing the other portfolio companies that they invested in, and like saying, well, I'd really like to talk to those entrepreneurs. Is that okay? Could you introduce me to some of the entrepreneurs that you've invested in? And it's like, you've already decided that they are dying to write a check, and you're like, maybe I'm going to let you write a check.
What are some pieces of advice you wish more people would talk about ahead of making a major change in their life? Like, this is a real talk. What are things that you're like, okay, we need to be talking about this more?
I think life is about love. And if you have kids and, family, I mean, this is really important and what really matters. So I think figuring out if whatever you're going to do is going to compromise that relationship or those relationships before you do it, I think is, because that's, that's really where I think most of the regrets will come from, is if you feel like you neglected the people that you love. And then I think advice, the best piece of advice that I've ever received as a like first time founder CEO, that my job is to like figure out how to get people to do what I want them to do. It was from my shrink, actually, who's like an amazing guy who's called Phil Stutz, and he's got some great books that you should look into. One of them is called The Tools, and he's amazing. So anyway, so he has like all these tools that he gives people. Like the therapy is much more about like, how can I help you get what you want? Like, how it's more like productive or progressive. And I like that because I like want to figure out how to get some edge or whatever. And so he's got all these tools, but one of the tools that he talks about a lot is, there's actually 2 that I'll give you. But the first one is the difference between fake confidence, as we're talking about confidence, and real confidence. And I always think about this because pretty much if you want people to follow you and join you and like work with you to build something, which you're going to need if you want to build anything great, you need to inspire their confidence, because you probably don't know what you're doing, and you probably, I'm a terrible speller. Like, I can't pronounce certain words. Like, maybe people might think I'm not. I don't know what I'm doing, because I'm like really good in certain areas. And anyway, the point is like you have to like, they have to feel like you're going to figure out how to like build the net when we're falling off the cliff. And so fake confidence is like, well, we're gonna fall off this cliff, and I've got a net, it's already built, we're gonna like fall into it. Or we're gonna launch on April 22nd, and it's gonna be huge, and we're gonna get 3 million views or whatever. So I guess would be a more sort of timely or modern goal. And the fact is like, you don't know that. You don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 minutes. So if you're saying that, like, I'm not really going to like believe you, because you don't know anything. None of us know anything. So real confidence is like the confidence that whatever happens, you're going to turn it around. And there's 2 ways to turn it around, which is like, you either change like an example would be like, you're in traffic and you like, I don't want to be in traffic, I got to get out of traffic. So you could either like get on Waze and go a different route and get out of the traffic, which solves the problem, or you can accept that you're in traffic. And either way, you're moving forward. And it's like, if you get that mentality and people feel like, okay, you're gonna figure this out, because it's like acceptance is moving forward, actually changing it around is moving forward. You got to move forward. It's like you got to put one foot in front of the other. As simple as that sounds, you got to do that. And it's like analysis paralysis. If you take too long, you're just step to the side, you step to the back. It's like you can't move. So that's the one. And then the second one is something that he gives a lot of like very successful, powerful people. It's called the night review. So he thinks that getting organized and being productive happens the night before the day starts. So every night before you go to bed, he prescribes for you to write down what you need to do the next day.
And what is the value specifically to doing that? Because that's something that I do, and I
think it's about focus, and I think like a lot of people that want to do a lot of things, they feel they're nervous and they lack confidence, and the reason why is because they don't feel organized. And I think feeling organized and structure around what you want to do and priorities around that just helps you get it done. If you do it, it like really does keep you on track. It just keeps you sane.
Yeah, and it becomes those little things.
It's all the little things that make big things happen.
I love that.
That's Coach Wooden. That's not me. That's Coach Wooden.
Well, shout out to Coach Wooden.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. This was incredible.
Thank you so much for your interest in me, and I'm so happy to be here, and I hope something I said helps somebody go after their dreams.
Totally. Thank you. For more information on Cassandra Gray and her company Violet Grey, check her out on Instagram at Cassandra Gray, and that's Gray, Grey, and Violet Grey, and on Twitter at Violet Grey.